Hi, I'm Vanessa and I love bad Star Trek. I break down the bad episodes of my favorite shows so you don't have to watch it. I will be the hot dog water hangover that is Star Trek the Animated Series. Today I will be talking to you about an episode called Mud's Passion. The Animated Series is a show that I think deserves more attention, particularly for episodes like Yesteryear and Pirates of Orion. After 3 seasons, Star Trek's original series was canceled in 1969, but there was still a lot of enthusiasm for the show. So Gene Roddenberry decided to continue the series as an animated show and pitch it that way, which I think is smart because there's so much more that can be done once you take the constraints of reality and budget out of the equation. With most of the remaining casting on to voice the characters, it feels very much like a continuation with some more alien crew, like a Cation on board who is voiced by Majel Barrett, Gene Roddenberry's wife. And it just makes me laugh to think of her in a recording booth going prrr, prrr. The pitch was to make it for all ages rather than just kids only, as animation had mainly become when the animated series premiered in 1973. Mud's Passion was received well critically, but it introduces a character that should be absolutely nowhere near a show that kids watch, or any really. Harry Mudd, whose full name is Harcourt Fenton Mudd, is an intergalactic criminal and a recurring character on the original series, and was introduced in an episode called Mudd's Women, where he is a sex trafficker and the women in his employ are stuck there because he is feeding them a drug they are dependent on. So that's gross. And he shows up again on an episode where he has an entire planet of humanoid androids at his command, most of them women. So this character is a scummy, mustache-twirling, misogynist villain whose creepiness is somehow meant to translate into comic relief. It just aged like milk. I am not a fan of this character, so other than being a boisterous and charming person, he is not a worthy adversary for Captain Kirk and his crew. They just mostly smirk and wink at his antics before throwing him in jail again. The only constant pain in the ass / sparring partner that's fun to watch is Q on The Next Generation. It's much easier to watch a good actor have fun with a character when they're not a sex trafficker. The animated series artists also made absolutely no attempt whatsoever to make Harry Mudd any less creepy looking when translating him into a cartoon. He's got the same smarmy, gross, and pervy expressions, the same 3 strands of hair stretched across his bald ass head. Comb-overs, okay, are the worst hairstyles ever. It's like advertising that you're delusional, that you're a liar. Just shave that shit off. And they even got the same actor to voice this character, which makes sense because his voice is pretty distinct. But why? Why this character? He's not even credited. One general thing to note about the animated series is that the animation is not good. The stories can sometimes be great, but they don't even color in the whites of the eyes. The eyes are just the same color as their skin. The way that the scenes are cropped and blocked don't make visual sense. Sometimes instead of showing just someone talking, they show a shadowed profile of the person talking in 3/4 profile. And the camera is focused on the person responding, but they just have a blank expression. Sometimes you can just see a hand or a leg, like they didn't think about how to make these scenes dynamic besides zooming in on a specific body part. So how do they take Harry Mudd and translate it to a cartoon that's meant for all ages? Kirk is about to arrest him as Harry Mudd is selling drugs to minors. The people who wear lights on their helmets and dig into the ground, like mining.
Now you are all heavy metal miners, shrewd and intelligent, so you can appreciate the incredible value I'm offering.
on a planet literally called Motherlode. He's selling these drugs like a snake oil salesman holding courts, and he's hollering out like no one of the opposite sex could possibly resist you, which I thought was hilariously specific. They make sure to say no homo.
It's not whether you are young, old, fat, ugly, or repugnant.
This would never work. This would never work now. And he calls it liquid love potion, but it looks like he's got toenail clippings in his hand. So does he expect people to drink this out of his linseed oil baseball mitt of a hand? When the crowd of miners wants proof that this love potion works, he's like, oh, look, a woman that likes me. And she could not possibly be more miserable to be there. Like, she sounds so hungover and resigned to her fate as a prop.
Harry, darling, I was lonely for you.
Like, see, this hot lady fell in love with me after I rubbed one drop of this stuff on me and I just touched her, which sounds horrifying. And Spock tells the miners like he's lying, and he shoots her with a phaser, and the woman becomes a lizard who's like a shapeshifter. Like, he couldn't even hire an actual woman to pretend to like him. So the miners are pissed that Harry Mudd tried to swindle them, and they start throwing rocks, and they all miss.
Thief!
I surrender myself.
And Harry's like, okay, I guess I'll let you take me in to be arrested, because it's either that or I get stoned to death. And he was, you know, being arrested for drug dealing anyway, so it all works out. Once he's beamed onto the ship, Harry Mudd senses tension between Spock and Nurse Chapel and says, hey, if you want him to like you, use this crystal.
What is it?
My love potion. Not delusion, not trickery, dear Nurse Chapel.
And he calls it a crystal, she calls it a potion, and I guess it's like a gusher filled with MDMA. Who would ingest anything that has come out of this man's sweaty hands? But no, you're actually supposed to rub the liquid onto you to turn other people on. Like, remember, this is a Saturday morning cartoon. So Nurse Chapel goes, I'm gonna run some tests on this thing, and Harry Mudd's like, oh no, don't do that. You're gonna ruin it like that. Just take it, especially if you want Spock to like you. Like, I hate that they made Nurse Chapel into an idiot, because they made her so desperate to turn on a cold fish like Spock that Harry convinces her to take it.
One touch evokes friendship between men or women, but between woman and man, love.
Ugh. And he catches her as she's overwhelmed with the effects of the drug, and he somehow pickpockets the pockets that she doesn't have and gets her ID. And he goes, hey, go find Spock and touch him, and takes her ID and commits identity theft in the least convincing manner ever. Meanwhile, Nurse Chapel accidentally falls into Spock's lap, which is super awkward because Spock just looks at her like, what? Which is his permanent frozen expression anyway. But he's clearly not reciprocating, and this makes Nurse Chapel want to stab herself in the eye with 3D chess pieces out of sheer humiliation.
Wouldn't you like me to, well, stay? Help you?
That would be illogical, Miss Chapel.
Yes. Yes. It'd be stupid.
Nurse Chapel looks for Harry Mudd to kick his ass and discovers Harry Mudd's gone as another man's hand comes up from underneath, stroking her chin in deep contemplation. Like, that's weird timing. And she discovers that Harry Mudd's about to steal a shuttle as he tosses some of the love crystals into the vent. So now everybody's feeling the love. She again passes out, and Harry Mudd kidnaps Nurse Chapel. Like, where is security? Why is drugging and kidnapping a woman on a fucking cartoon? And meanwhile, Spock is rolling like a candy raver at an abandoned warehouse.
Nurse Chapel's sweet summary. Dear, lovely Christine.
And I love how everybody's back is turned as he's like confessing his feelings. Like, why?
Captain. Doctor. I wish to report a number of very strange, emotions.
What?
And Spock can't stand the thought of his lovely Christine Chapel on the shuttle. Like, he's not so concerned with her safety as he is like, oh, my love. Like, it can't be overstated how unusual it is for Spock to express himself this way. Spock hasn't been this emotionally agitated since he got Pon farr. And if the animation were better, it would be great to see some facial expressions to get that, particularly as he declares his love for Nurse Chapel in front of the entire bridge. But we got what we got. And the most obvious example of this limitation is when he's on the transporter pleading with Captain Kirk to beam him down to the planet to rescue Christine, and his hands are just stuck out at his sides and his fingers are sticking out.
Lucky for us, they don't work.
Are we sure, Jim? A number of the crew are acting as strange as Spock.
Please, Captain.
Like, no, I definitely can't draw hands, but someone out there must know. Someone must have cracked the hand code. The best part of this is when Spock and Kirk both feel the effects of this drug and declare their friendship.
Thanks, Jim. It's good to have a friend like you.
Strange, that's the way I feel about you too. My dear friend Spock.
Remember, this is a straight thing, very straight thing. Just two guys hanging out. And the Cation officer comes on to Scotty back on the bridge, and I don't know how he feels about it because his face is like... And Kirk asks Harry how long this drug is supposed to last, and he's a little baffled in how to answer because he never thought this would ever work. So this episode is pretty inappropriate, not just for kids, but anybody. Harry Mudd is an unnecessary addition to Trek, and it gets no better in this cartoon. Sex trafficking and drugging women and kidnapping, not really something I'd want a kid to watch, personally. So with all that said, the ending is kind of great. On the planet, scans show there's no life forms, but two mountains open their eyes, sprout arms, and start fighting.
Get us out of here!
Transporter room, emergency beam up now.
Meanwhile, back on the ship, the drug's wearing off, and Scotty's like, man, I feel like shit.
Oh, I've got a hangover to shame all previous hangovers. And I did not touch a drop of scotch.
Just talking about scotch, Nurse Chapel begs the Enterprise to beam them back, and it's taking a long ass time, and this guy's just fiddling with the slider like he doesn't know how to push a button. The fighting dinosaur mountains have now been drugged with the rest of Mudd's crystals, because instead of running away from these giant rock creatures who are fighting and breaking all the mountains around them, they make them fall in love, which actually makes things more dangerous before beaming out. And that's it. Harry Mudd clearly isn't smart, so how he keeps breaking out of jail to steal ships and do more crimes is a mystery, except to show up again unannounced and be gross. Harry Mudd has only done one good thing, be on Discovery for a single episode, and that's it. Like, subscribe, no pressure, but peer pressure. Till next time, I guess.